Firstly, I would like to welcome you, Nidhi, to this OCLF. I hope you're having a nice time and you're enjoying Nagpur and its weather.
Yeah, it's wonderful being here and interacting with such a young crowd. It's actually a learning experience looking at the questions.
So, just for all of you, we've brought this to the table. That's Nidhi's latest offering to the literature world. But to you, I would like to ask, what do women get to the table in the political scene?
So I'm glad you asked this question. So there is this, all of us know that there is this raging debate over women's reservation, whether we should introduce women's reservation. And we have had this bill that has just been passed by Parliament. So I'd like to actually quote, why should we have women right now? Why can't a man, represent my interests? After all, if a woman MP or a woman MLA comes as your representative, she'll also represent the men's interests as well. She will be. So why in this era of when women have been fighting for equality, why do we talk of reservation? So first what do women, as Puja, you asked that, what do women bring to the table? So first of all, I'll just give you some, personal anecdotes. So I remember I was covering Parliament in 2007, and that was the first time I had gone to cover Parliament. And we work in, shift systems. Like, say, probably a first couple of hours, first 4 hours, I'll cover, and then my colleague will cover. So debates happen, we take notes, we're not allowed with our cell phones inside. So I realized when I wanted to use the washroom, there were no washrooms for women on the so we operate on the first floor. This I'm talking about the old Parliament House. So I'm talking about 2007. So on the first floor, there were no washrooms for women. So we were actually asked to share washrooms with men. And anytime I had to use the washroom, I was very skeptical. I mean, for whatever being emancipated or not, somehow I didn't feel okay going into the same washroom as a man or waiting with men and doing that. So in 2009 or around then, when Meera Kumar became the first Lok Sabha speaker, who came, and we women journalists actually represented to her that we don't have toilets. Now, can you imagine something as basic as having a woman's toilet was an issue in Lok Sabha? So it took a woman speaker to get us a toilet, and a very fancy one. Now, that's what I feel, Puja, women bring to the table. There's sensitivity in policy making. It'll never occur to a man that there needs to be toilets. Another example, while I was researching on my book, and Renuka Chaudhary, who's the first woman and child development minister, told me that when she would go to villages, and she would ask, like in one of the villages she asked, there was a bus service that had to be introduced. So when she asked the women of the village कि बस कब चलनी चाहिए, तो सब जो औरतें थी गांव की, उन्होंने कहा कि बच्चों का स्कूल का टाइम होता है सुबह 7 बजे, तो उस टाइम चलनी चाहिए ताकि वो आ जाएं, सेफली आ जाएं. जब आदमियों से पूछा गया कि कब चलनी चाहिए, तो दे वांटेड द टाइमिंग टू बी कोऑर्डिनेटेड विद द लोकल ठेका. शाम के समय चलनी चाहिए सो दैट दे कैन गेट देयर बूज, ड्रिंक एंड कम बैक. So that is the sensitivity a woman brings to the table. So why do we need, now that is one part, there is a sensitivity that women, now where are we at in an equal world, where are we at as far as women policy makers are concerned? Here I'll tell you statistics. Now can somebody tell me how many women were there in Nehru's cabinet? Any guesses? How many women were there in 1952? First election happened in 1952. First cabinet of Nehru. Anyone? How many women? There was one. There was one. Who was that woman? No, Rajkumari Amrit Kaur, who was the first health minister, and she's credited with, opening AIMS in India, right? How many cabinet ministers are there in Modi's cabinet today? 70 years later, roughly. 2 ministers. Nirmala Sitharaman and Smriti Irani, 2 cabinet ministers. I said cabinet ministers. So from 1, women have become 2. It has taken 70 years. Now the fact that this lady here in front of me said Sarojini Naidu. Now this is a very, whenever I travel and talk about my book, I always ask the audience, tell me names of 5 women politicians right around the time of independence. Before independence or 5 years after independence. Give me 5. Anyone, just give me 5 names of women politicians. Sarojini Naidu. Indira Gandhi, 2. Sorry. No, just tell me 5 years or 10 years after. Sonia Gandhi is contemporary. I'll come to that also. So you've told me Indira Gandhi and Sarojini Naidu. And I gave you Rajkumari Amrit Kaur. So let's still count 3. I'm still lacking 2. So this is what I say, the quest for our knowledge. Now, tell me 5 men politicians around that time. बता दीजिए, आप ही बता दीजिए. 5 तो बता ही देंगे, आप 10 बता पाएंगे. जी सब थे. अब मेरा प्रॉब्लम ये है, ऐसा नहीं था औरतें काम नहीं कर रही थी वहाँ पे. अब फ्रीडम स्ट्रगल में भी थी, लेकिन आपको बस पता नहीं है. ऐसा नहीं है कि हिस्ट्री बुक्स में नहीं लिखा हुआ है, थोड़ा बहुत तो हिस्ट्री बुक्स में भी लिखा हुआ है, लेकिन हमने उनके बारे में या तो पढ़ा नहीं है या ज़्यादा लिखा नहीं है. प्रॉब्लम है हमारी जो क्वेस्ट है नॉलेज की, हमें लगता है कि वो बहुत ही संकीर्ण सोच है हमारी, बहुत है. सुचेता कृपलानी का आप लोगों ने किसी ने नाम नहीं लिखा, वो इस किताब में है. सुचेता कृपलानी जो थी हमारी फर्स्ट वुमन चीफ मिनिस्टर थी इन इंडिया, फर्स्ट वुमन चीफ मिनिस्टर इन इंडिया. Nobody knows, what is so unfortunate, when I started writing the book and I had to choose 2 women who were pioneers in the field of politics, I myself struggled to know about the politics of Sucheta Kriplani. तो हम है ही नहीं. अब 5 औरतें अभी की बता दीजिए आप. I'll make it more complicated. Give me 5, but then I'll make it more complicated for you. Give me 5 contemporary Indian women politicians. Priyanka Gandhi. Okay. Yes. Perfect. अब मुझे बताइए जयललिता के अलावा साउथ इंडिया की एक और वुमन पॉलिटिशियन बता दीजिए मुझे. जयललिता नहीं चाहिए मुझे, एवरीथिंग हैज बीन रिटन. जस्ट 1 कंटेम्पररी इंडियन वुमन पॉलिटिशियन. Thank you. And what is her this thing? What is her claim to fame? Why do we know her? Exactly, her father. I'm so sorry, but that's how I'm not my father's daughter, right? So what is her claim to? So she's an MP who's from Thoothukudi, and she's been very, very vocal, and she's been a multi-term MLA, MP, sorry. So, and she takes up causes like, she takes up causes like climate change. She's one of those few women who actually stand for talk about climate change in Parliament. So, somewhere there is not much written about women politicians, and they do bring sensitivity to the table. And आप लोगों को आदमियों के बारे में कैसे पता है? क्या हमने लेफ्ट का लिटरेचर पढ़ा है? हमने क्या लेफ्ट में अराउंड द टाइम व्हेन देयर वाज बंगाल फैमिन, ओके, आई एम टॉकिंग अबाउट द अर्ली 20th सेंचुरी, जब 1910 का फैमिन हुआ, ये सब रिलीफ वर्क कौन करता था, कौन लेके जाता था? उस टाइम की जो ऑर्गेनाइजेशंस थी वहाँ विमेंस ऑर्गेनाइजेशंस थी. आपको पता है औरतें पॉलिटिक्स में तब आई क्योंकि सारे आदमी जेल में थे और फ्रीडम स्ट्रगल किसी को चलानी थी. तब गांधी जी ने बोला, आह्वान किया कि औरतें आएंगी बाहर. और क्या उनका कोई सपोर्टिव रोल नहीं था? देयर वर सो मेनी लेफ्ट पॉलिटिशियंस. आई वुड encourage you to read so many books which are taken out by Left Word, which is their bookstore, and you must read about them. क्योंकि ऐसा नहीं है कि औरतें आज आई हैं, ऐसा नहीं थी subjugated थी, ऐसा नहीं थी कि हमें emancipation चाहिए था. औरतें हमेशा से थीं, हमें बस उनके बारे में पता नहीं है क्योंकि हमने पढ़ाई नहीं की उनके बारे में, और इतना ज़्यादा लिखा भी नहीं गया है उनके बारे में.
तो ये जो नंबर्स हैं इतने कम, इतने so meager, these numbers, and I think you were discussing with
Yes.
me about the percentage also. It's barely
Exactly,
increased.
yeah. So imagine when 1952 में इलेक्शंस हुए तो लोकसभा में 4.4% औरतें आईं, और आज की डेट में वाइल्ड गेस कितनी प्रतिशत महिलाएं हैं लोकसभा में? 30 कहा आपने? नहीं, 13 नहीं, हाँ, मतलब ऑलमोस्ट 15% है. 82 women are there in लोकसभा टुडे. और इसीलिए हमें औरतें चाहिए क्योंकि वी आर 50% ऑफ द पॉपुलेशन. तो 50% तो मेरा हक बनता है जब पॉलिसी मेकिंग की बात होती है. तो इट्स वेरी स्मॉल, दैट परसेंटेज इज़ वेरी स्मॉल राइट नाउ.
So the bill proposes to make it 33%, just for the knowledge of those who are uninitiated. But how will this help, or will it help? Is it that it's a stepping stone to equality, or is equality a myth? So there is, from some quarters, some resistance to this bill, and some quarters a form of using it for their ulterior motives, as we were talking about, considering women as a constituency. So what would you like to say for that?
So I always find it very challenging to explain to such a young audience कि क्यों, मतलब हम तो इक्वल हैं, है ना? तो इक्वल हैं तो हमें रिजर्वेशन क्यों चाहिए? तो मैं आपको एक बहुत ही साधारण सा एग्जाम्पल देती हूँ. मेरा बेटा है 12 साल का, मेरी बेटी ऑलमोस्ट 10 साल की है. एंड वी आर दोज पेरेंट्स जो बच्चों को बोलते हैं तुम जाओ सब्जी खरीद के आओ, दूध खरीद के आओ, सो दैट जनरल नॉर्मल जैसे घरों में होता है. तो मैंने अपने बेटे और बेटी को एक एक थैला दिया, क्योंकि एक थैले पे तो लड़ाई होगी, शायद चीथड़ों में वापस आए. तो एक एक थैला दिया और बोला तुम ये लेके आओ, तुम वो लेके आओ. मदर डेयरी भेजा, सब्जी वट एवर, दूध. तो when they both came back, my daughter was carrying a heavier bag. जैसे कि होते हैं ना थोड़े से दुष्ट बच्चे होते हैं जिनको जो पता है इसको तो इसको तो भारी वाला दे दिया जाए. तो my son is like that. उसने दे दिया होगा भारी बैग उसको कि तू पकड़, उसने ले लिया होगा. When they came back, I told him, I said, why did you give the heavier bag? So he turned around and he asked me, क्यों, वो नहीं पकड़ सकती है क्या, थोड़ा ही तो भारी था. तो देखिए, एक सोसाइटी में जहाँ पे मेरे लिए सवाल था कि जब मैं उनको बोल रही हूँ कि आप दोनों इक्वल हो, इक्वल खाते हो, इक्वल स्कूल में जाते हो, तो मेरे लिए सवाल था कि मैंने ये क्यों कहा, ये मेरी सोशल कंडीशनिंग थी, मैंने ये क्यों कहा कि ऐसे तुमने बड़ा भाई. तो हम क्यों बोलते हैं कि लड़कियों के ऊपर हाथ नहीं उठाना चाहिए, हम ये क्यों नहीं बोलते हैं कि हाथ नहीं उठाना चाहिए किसी पे. तो अब वो डोमेस्टिक वायलेंस का तो बहुत ही सेपरेट इशू हो गया कि जिस एज में हम लोग इक्वालिटी की बात करते हैं, तो उस एज में मैं रिजर्वेशन की बात क्यों कर रही हूँ. देखिए, रिजर्वेशन की बात मैं ये इसलिए कर रही हूँ क्योंकि हमने देख लिया फ्रॉम 4.4% टू ग्रो टिल 15%, इट हैज़ टेकन मी 70 years, राइट. सो आई नीड टू मेक अ बिगिनिंग, right? So if I have taken 70 years, how much time do you think I will take to grow to 50%? More than 70 years, right? Please do the math. You will take more than 70 years to go to 50%. हमने ये establish कर लिया कि वहाँ औरतें ज़्यादा होनी चाहिए because they bring sensitivity to policy making. Now I am no feminist. मैं ये नहीं हूँ कि ये मतलब feminism के अंदर मैं I am not a feminist as far as rights are concerned. But कहीं शुरुआत होनी चाहिए So for this book, I interviewed a lot of women politicians. Supriya Sule has never used an ounce of. She comes from an emancipated background. She herself says Maharashtrian society is a very, it's a very equal society. उनकी दादी खुद शरद पवार की जो मदर थी, वो उस टाइम पे विलेज काउंसिल की मेंबर थी. एंड जब शरद पवार ने अपनी ऑटोबायोग्राफी में लिखा हुआ है कि जब वो 8 या 9 दिन के थे, उनको गोद में लेके बस पकड़ के वो काउंसिल मीटिंग्स में जाती थी. महाराष्ट्रियन सोसाइटी कंसिडर की जाती है काफ़ी एमेंसिपेटेड. तो उसमें शी सेड, शी यूज्ड अ वेरी ब्यूटिफुल लाइन. शी सेड, वी नीड टू स्टार्ट समवेयर एंड समवेयर नीड्स टू बी नाउ. द टाइम नीड्स टू बी नाउ. आई नीड अ फुट इन द डोर. आपने मुझसे पूछा कि क्या वो इक्वालिटी की तरफ जाता है. हाँ, बहुत डाइकोटमस लगता है कि वो इक्वालिटी की तरफ जाता है, कि reservation is nothing but affirmative action. हाँ, वो उस तरफ जाता है because we need more women there.
Especially because it did not happen organically.
It didn't happen organically.
And for whatever reasons, for biological reasons or other reasons, or even for the reasons that the selectors, or there was a bias at the point of selection, it could have been that.
So yes, so it's like हमारी पंचायत, ग्राम पंचायत में we have had 33% of reservation. In fact, in many states we have 50% reservation. तो I would have argued कि यही महिलाएं MLAs तो बनती. एक नॉर्मल नर्चरिंग ग्राउंड है, जो एक स्प्रिंग बोर्ड होना चाहिए था पंचायत का, कि वो वहाँ से उठ के सीधा MLAs जाती. Those trained MLAs should have become MPs by now, right? But that didn't happen. So that means somewhere this growth is not happening organically and it needs an artificial push.
That's true. So I think I'm very tempted to shift gears just a bit and talk more about your book. So she's written about 17 women politicians through the ages, right from the time of independence to the contemporary ones. I'm tempted to ask you which one did you enjoy writing the most about and why? Your favorite part of this book?
So actually, so there are two profiles which are closest to my heart. One was in education. Was Pratibha Patil. And one that was closest to my heart was Sushma Swaraj. Now, why I say Pratibha Patil was, it was a learning experience for me as to the way she opened up in the book, and the facets I got to know about her personality, and it also made me reflect as to how I had covered the 2007 presidential election in a very unidimensional way. So as a journalist, I learned a lot. Like in 2007, I remember जब उनका election होने वाला था, तो एक वो कैंपेन चलाया गया था कि इनका क्या क्लेम टू फेम है. ये सोनिया गांधी के, मतलब टू पुट इट वेरी क्रैसली, ये सोनिया गांधी के किचन में खाना पकाती हैं, उनके लिए रोटियां बनाती हैं, उनके लिए रोटियां गर्म करती हैं. ऑब्वियसली शी वॉज द राजस्थान गवर्नर एंड देयर वाज नो वे शी कुड हैव डन दैट, बट दैट इज हाउ इट वाज पेडल्ड टू अस. तो वो, और जब मैं उनसे अभी मिली तो you know how she spoke, how she conducted herself, how she was willing to give all the, till after so many years that 2007 में वो रही हुई, after so many years, that time what she had gone through. हम सोचते हैं कि जो politicians होते हैं उनको ज़्यादा कुछ फ़र्क नहीं पड़ता अगर personal attacks होते हैं. They are thick-skinned, they have been in public life, they must be used to these attacks, but apparently not. Which was again an education for me. She still spoke about कि party never clarified these allegations. She was hurt. I said, did you ever, so I asked her, did you ever feel tempted to, get out of that race? So she said, yes, there were moments that I did. But हम लोगों को ऐसे train किया जाता है कि हम party ने बोला है तो हम उससे back out नहीं कर सकते हैं. So for me, that was also an education. Plus, she shared a very beautiful anecdote that she told me that, ये जो आपको अपने कंफर्ट जोन से बाहर निकलना पड़ता है बहुत बार. So she told me that how she almost became the first woman chief minister of Maharashtra. So Maharashtra has never had a woman chief minister, which is very strange. So uh, she recounted how she was roped in, and when she was taken to Indira Gandhi, and Indira Gandhi agreed that she should be the nominee. And उनका एक ऑब्जर्वर उस टाइम सीताराम केसरी वहाँ पहुँचे और वो संजय गांधी के नॉमिनी थे. तो उन्होंने ऑलरेडी अंतुले जी को डिक्लेयर कर दिया था, एंड द aircraft that was airborne never landed. That aircraft had the observer who would have declared Pratibha Patil as the chief minister. So that was diverted and it never happened. So this was actually, all this was an education for me. Plus how I had also bought into that, she was obviously a Gandhi family loyalist, I could never say that. But she had her own politics. In covering that election in a very unidimensional way, probably somewhere I had not taken note of her achievements as a politician.
That's so interesting, getting this behind the scene, perspective of it all. So, believe me, her book is full of anecdotes. Very interesting one. I think if we get time, you could tell them about Smriti Irani's.
Yeah.
It's rather.
So actually, one of the facets of the book that I have discussed is, most of us know what their politics is all about. इस टाइम पे जितना सोशल मीडिया है, जितनी कवरेज मिलती है, पॉलिटिक्स सबको पता होती है. लेकिन पर्सनल लाइफ जो होती है, जो मैं एज अ जर्नलिस्ट हमेशा लोगों से पूछती हूँ कि हाउ डू यू बैलेंस योर पर्सनल लाइफ विद दिस थिंग. द कॉमन थ्रेड दैट रन्स थ्रू ऑल प्रोफाइल्स इन द बुक इज दैट there is no excuse for a woman not to, जिसे कहते हैं कि घर नहीं संभालना. तो when we were discussing this session, तो मैं पूजा को बता रही थी कि कोई excuse नहीं होता है. जैसे स्मृति ईरानी ने उस टाइम मुझे बोला कि मैं एक बार, she was a young politician, she hadn't really fought an election till then. तो she said कि मैं ट्रैवल कर रही थी, उनको राजस्थान का, she was one of the workers in राजस्थान assembly elections. तो उन्होंने बोला कि मैं जैसे ही लैंड की मुंबई में, तो मुझे कुक का फ़ोन आया कि दीदी घर में सब्जी नहीं है, तो मैं क्या बनाऊं. तो शी सेड टू हर कि तुम खिचड़ी बनाने करो और मैं आते समय आई विल गेट वेजिटेबल्स एंड बोथ ऑफ अस विल गेट इनटू द किचन एंड वील डू समथिंग. सो I was just, so I ask, so another profile is that of Kavita Kalvakuntala, who is right now the MLC, and another one since you used that example कि वो Karunanidhi की daughter है. Kavita Kalvakuntala is KCR's daughter, Telangana Chief Minister's daughter, but she has her own politics. तो जब मैंने उनसे पूछा how do you handle home and your politics, so she said, do you ever ask a man this question? So I said, no, I never asked a man this question, because in a way they are never expected to. So she said, probably we need to ask men this question. So I said, probably you also need to share कि आपके experiences क्या रहे हैं, so that women can also ask for an equal share. And as they say, जो बड़ा फेमस हुआ है ad, share the load, washing load, it's just washing load, there is more to do in the household. But probably there, you can be just inspiring stories. So I feel somewhere these stories need to be told more than their politics.
And you can bet you'll have a lot of them, and they're available downstairs, so you can have us to sign them also. In the book, again, Nidhi, you've classified them as the pioneers, the inheritors. So they had politics inherited. And the third group is the lone warriors. So who, according to you, are, one, the strongest, and two, who had it the most difficult? Because I don't think it's a very obvious choice.
So I've classified in, actually not in 3 but 4. The 4th section is future leaders. So I somewhere believe, when I started out on my journalistic career, so I always felt that जिनको inherit करते हैं कोई भी चीज़, चाहे वो business हो चाहे वो politics हो, वो बड़ा easy होता है ना, कि उनको तो मम्मी डैडी का सब कुछ मिल गया धरोहर, and we are the ones who are हमने तो grassroots से सब कुछ journalism हो या कुछ भी हो हमने शुरू किया है. But I feel everyone has their challenges. So, so there are challenges for inheritors as well. So, like the first challenge that I feel inheritors face is the constant comparison that they have to face with their parent.
Living up to those expectations.
Yes, because it is, you're always being compared to your parent. It's like being compared to my parent for say चाहे बहुत अच्छा खाना बनाते हों या चाहे बहुत अच्छे पत्रकार हों या जो भी हों. So it is very unfair. I am my own person. It is all right when you say कि तुम मम्मी की तरह दिखती हो या तुम्हारा नाक ऐसा है, तुमने फादर से forehead ले लिया है. All that is fine, but for a child to be constantly compared, because you can never measure up to another person. And so inheritors have their own challenges, right? So do people. Obviously, if there are lone warriors, they are starting from scratch. So they have their own struggles as well. So in politics, it is not, I would feel, not a place which is very kind to women, right? So the pioneers are those who started off, like say, I consider Indira Gandhi, Sucheta Kriplani as the first few women who actually defined politics for women in India. So I feel that everybody, like Kanimori said to me that, Kanimori said that, there was a constant, Kavita Kalvakuntla said, there's a constant comparison that you don't speak like your father. Of course I don't speak like my father. My father had his own struggles, right? So they have to carve a niche. So their struggles are different, but all of them have their struggles and challenges.
And another thing that was written in the blurb, and it says that this book will be inspirational to the women who wish to become the next generation of political leaders. So among the young crowd present here, how would you inspire them to, if they have a political ambition, what would you say to them?
So I never classify this. I mean, it's often asked of me that, what do you tell them? So I somehow feel that, it's a journey that they have to undertake. But anything that, you're good at or you truly believe in, you find a way to achieve it. Like I'm often asked that how did you write a book being in a full-time job?
And that was my next question.
So how did you find the time with 2 young children, being a hands-on parent, traveling for work, and obviously the book and researching? How did you find the time? I always say that it comes from within. You always find the time and the willpower to just push yourself through. So if you truly are interested in, say, politics or anything, any career option, I think you just are able to achieve it. It just comes from within.
And how about you? I mean, the journey from being a journalist and still being a journalist, but now also an author. So is it more difficult or different to report or to opine? Or how is it?
Again, it's different because you get that creative space when you are writing a book. You get that creative space when in your day-to-day journalism, the pressure of being fair and unbiased, you don't. They're just the opinion pages. But a book provides you with that creative freedom that helps you in. It actually is creative fulfillment that I feel pushes every journalist to become an author.
And somewhat liberating to feel.
Absolutely, it does.
You can have that. So what should the young crowd do if they want to pursue a career in writing in any form?
In any form. So they're very lucky that they're very fortunate that they have many avenues. If nothing else, there's so many social media offers you blog space. So I feel that do you need training, formal training to be journalist? I think no, but you do need to have a sense of balance. It always helps to have that kind of basic training, either in a postgraduate course or so many courses that you have. Like I did my BA honors in journalism. At that time, we weren't very trained journalists at that, but right now they have many options, and obviously there are ways to, I think that if you're interested in writing, you need to just keep writing. You just need to keep writing. When people ask me like, what do we write, just put thoughts to paper.
And believe me, you'll keep getting better.
Yeah, it just happens. It's automatic. It comes from within. If you're interested in writing, it'll come from within, and you just need to keep writing and reading a lot, which I can never ever underemphasize. Overemphasize, because you need to keep reading. I feel that reading habit is so essential. जो हम लोग जिस तरीके से पढ़ते थे, बिकॉज हमारे पास और एवेन्यूज नहीं थे, दूरदर्शन पे एक शाम को 4 बजे हफ्ते में एक मूवी आती थी जो बहुत गंदी होती थी, जो ब्लैक एंड वाइट होती थी, कई बार प्रिंट भी बहुत खराब होता था, तो हमारे पास डिस्ट्रैक्शंस नहीं थे, तो क्या करते, वही 4 बजे की फिल्म नहीं देख सकते थे, और अगर कुछ अच्छा देखना होता था एंटीना घुमाना पड़ता था, विच टू अ 12-13 year old इज अ वेरी कम्बसम जॉब. सो हम लोग ले दे के पढ़ते ही थे. तो ठीक है, हमारे पास डिस्ट्रैक्शंस नहीं होते थे, लेकिन इसका मतलब ये नहीं कि आप लोग पढ़ें ना, क्योंकि मैं तो अभी भी पढ़ती हूँ. लाइक आई वाज कमिंग इन माय फ्लाइट, आई वाज स्टिल रीडिंग. सो यू विल ऑलवेज सी मी विद अ बुक, इवन इफ इट्स ऑन अ फोन.
So before this is one thing I didn't tell her, and it's a surprise, and I have a small rapid fire for her. But before that, I want to ask you if you would like to ask her something. Anyone? Any questions? Yeah.
Being a law student, when this bill came, it was a discussion between among all of my peers. So, what do you think where the legislation went wrong to increase the number of women in the parliament?
See, the legislation, I feel, did not go wrong. They had to make a political point, which was really a long time coming. So the legislation did not go wrong anywhere. So it's just that the intention of the government was questioned on 2 counts. That what is the time frame that you're talking about? Are you too busy? Are you really trying to make a political point? Because the bill was linked to, the introduction of women's reservation was linked to 2 things: the census exercise and the delimitation exercise. Now we know that census exercise is much delayed, राइट? तो अगर आपकी नियत है कि आपको 2024 में, तो वो हो ही नहीं सकता है. लेकिन जब हम उसका फाइन प्रिंट पढ़ते हैं बिल का, तो हम ये रियलाइज़ करते हैं कि जब आप डीलिमिटेशन की जो एक्सरसाइज है, जो हमारा ड्राफ्ट है, वो 2026 तक का है. उसके आगे हम डीलिमिटेशन की एक्सरसाइज करेंगे, और वो तो बहुत लंबा प्रोसेस होता है, तो हमारा कोई एंड साइट में नहीं है. तो आपने एक पॉलिटिकल उसके अंदर पॉइंट तो आपने प्रूव कर दिया. अगर आप सारी पॉलिटिकल पार्टीज की अच्छी नियत होती, तो वी वुड हैव स्टार्टेड with giving them tickets. Now the first elections we are seeing now, I have some data somewhere. So जो हम लोगों की जो नंबर ऑफ टिकट्स इस बार हम लोग ने दी हैं, आई रिटन दैट, तो हम लोग ने जो टिकट्स दी हैं, मतलब ऑल द पॉलिटिकल पार्टीज. So in Madhya Pradesh, out of 230 assembly seats, BJP has given 27 tickets to women, right? So we're just talking about 10%, and here we are looking at, अच्छा इस 10% में भी कितनी महिलाएं चुन के आएंगी? कांग्रेस ने दिए 30. तेलंगाना, जहाँ पे कि कविता कल्वकुंतला and even her father have been running an entire campaign on we are standing for women's reservation. सो तेलंगाना ने, BRS ने 119 सीट्स में से सिर्फ 8 महिलाओं को टिकट दिया है.
That's less than 10%.
Right. So if the intentions are clear and this is not just lip service, you would at least, in the first few elections, when you have just parties ने unanimously pass किया है ये bill, except I think AMIM. So unanimously almost pass हुआ है. तो if that's the case, then give more tickets to women, right? तब winnability की बात आ जाती है. Those were the 2 counts that the BJP was challenged on. अरे, sir.
अगर आप पॉलिटिकल फैमिलीज में देखें, जहाँ पे भी जो महिला है वो भी है और जो पुरुष है वो भी है, जब उनको आगे जो है पास ऑन करना होता है मैटर, ठीक है ना। तो जैसे हम मान लीजिए कांग्रेस में देखें तो प्रियंका गांधी वाज कंसीडर्ड टू बी मच मोर कैपेबल देन राहुल गांधी, और एक जनरल परसेप्शन कम से कम यही है कि इट इज सोनिया गांधी इज विमेन पॉलिटिशियंस, जो है ना, क्योंकि ये जिद है कि नहीं मुझे राहुल गांधी को आगे बढ़ाना है, और उस वजह से जो है, और प्रियंका को कोई चार्ज उन्होंने उस तरीके से बहुत ज्यादा दिया है। अगर आप उधर थोड़ा सा और स्पेक्ट्रम
बीआरएस में भी सेम है, बिल्कुल केटीआर को
आप बिहार में जो देखें तो जो
मिसा, हाँ,
दोनों जिसमें कम से कम एक तो गुड फॉर नथिंग,
बिल्कुल,
ठीक है ना। तो और जो है वो बेटियों को कंपैरेटिवली दे रहे हैं, तो ये जो
बायस है
जहाँ पर जो है और इसका शायद कहीं पे रूट एक छोटा सा और इंदिरा गांधी जो है, जो लंबे समय तक रही प्रधानमंत्री, कांग्रेस में कोई महिलाओं का जो है, मतलब बाकी भी पार्टियों का कम्युनिस्ट को आपने बीजेपी का डेटा बताया, बट ये खासकर जब परिवारों में जब होता है,
नहीं, बिल्कुल। सो what you are saying is what I have always felt. जो आप परिवारों की बात कर रही हैं, but like in the session when both of us were together, you made a point that probably it's the reflection of the society that we live in, right? कि बेटा मेरा उत्तराधिकारी है, right? So I feel somewhere that always happens. जैसे आपने केसीआर का बोला, आपने सोनिया गांधी का, हाँ बिल्कुल सच है, केसीआर केटीआर को प्रिफर करते हैं ओवर कविता कल्वकुंतला. That's the harsh reality, and that's why somewhere either it's social conditioning or biases that come out. I feel that. एंड होता है ये हमारे मॉडर्न अपब्रिंगिंग में, शायद हम नहीं हो, हम बड़ा इक्वालिटी कर रहे हो, बट दीज आर हार्श रियलिटीज. आपने जो इंदिरा गांधी का एग्जाम्पल दिया, आई समहाउ फील, आई ऑलवेज लाइकन हर टू मार्गरेट थैचर, because somehow she never considered herself a woman politician. उन्होंने ऐसा कुछ किया नहीं औरतों को बढ़ाने के लिए इस स्फीयर में. Margaret Thatcher, as you remember, she was always considered, she's the only man in that cabinet. Remember that we used to always quote that very famous saying, she's the only man in that cabinet. उन्होंने कुछ भी ऐसा नहीं किया that we would identify her as a woman politician. Neither did Indira Gandhi for that matter. So I feel that to consider them, they were women, but as far as their politics is concerned, not just them, I feel none of the women politicians right now bring forth women politicians. जैसे महिला कांग्रेस, जैसे मैं जब कांग्रेस कवर कर रही थी, तो जब महिला कांग्रेस का इंचार्ज बनना कोई बड़ी बात नहीं होती थी. इट वाज नेवर कंसिडर्ड. इनफैक्ट अब लोकल पैरोकियल लैंग्वेज में उसको पनिशमेंट पोस्टिंग बोल देते थे, तो वो नहीं होती थी, इतनी बड़ी कोई बात नहीं होती थी. तो कहीं महिलाओं ने, और दूसरी बात, ये एक छोटा सा पॉइंट मैं यहाँ बनाना चाहूँगी, दैट जो डिमांड रिजर्वेशन की थी फॉर विमेन was never there when Constituent Assembly was debating this. There were just 2 reservations that they thought of. In fact, women within the Constituent Assemblies, when I was researching for the book, women in the Constituent Assemblies did not want a reservation because they took pride in the fact कि हम equal हैं, हम समान हैं. हमें गांधी जी ने बोला था तुम भी बाहर निकल के, हम equal हैं, तो हमें reservation नहीं चाहिए. There is only one reference in the Constituent Assembly debates where one woman member says, if a woman member leaves her seat in this Constituent Assembly, she should be replaced by a woman. But she qualifies it, but she says that, but this should not mean that we want reservations. तो 70s के दशक तक ये चलता रहा मामला. They did not want reservation. और इन्होंने इसलिए नहीं किया, उन्होंने कहा हम तो इक्वल हैं, हमें नहीं चाहिए रिजर्वेशन, हमें क्यों चाहिए रिजर्वेशन. और 70 के दशक में ये आवाज़ उठनी शुरू हुई क्योंकि लोगों को रियलाइज ये तो ऑर्गेनिकली हो ही नहीं रहा है, औरतें हैं ही नहीं, तो हमारी बात कौन सुनेगा, कौन कहेगा. तब जाके रिजर्वेशन की डिमांड आई और अब 2023 में जाके एक बिल दोनों सदनों ने पास किया.
So do we have a minute? Maybe we can just lighten it.
So
up. Please. We can.
We talk about how reservations are a means of representation, right? And I understand that would be the case when you talk about women's reservation as well. But how do you think other intersections, like say social or say background that you come from, or caste reservations, or just the caste of the person, how do you think these intersections come into play when we're talking about just women's reservation? Do you think we also need, say, a sect of reservation that is only for women from a particular community or a particular caste belonging from a social background?
So on this count, I feel that there are enough safeguards within the caste reservations that are there for women, if at all they want to come forth. And if here women representation has to be increased, there, a women's reservation bill is very much into play whenever it comes. Now here, I feel there is enough, encouragement or enough, you can say, momentum within the parties to give SCs and STs their share of reservation. And I feel the natural progression whenever a women's reservation bill comes into play, it will happen. But it will probably, as we go along and we find that we need more such things inbuilt into that, probably as we go along we can bring some safeguards into it that could bring more representation for the underprivileged. Yeah.
Question. So audience comes first.
Actually, it's not a question. So I was never much into politics, to be honest, but something recently happened which I observed closely, and I'm realizing now why this reservation is so necessary. So what happened was, I was at my Dadi's house. She lives in a village. So what happened was, elections for the Gram Panchayat was being held. So वहाँ पे ऐसे हुआ था कि I was there, so I observed everything closely. Village is a small space and you interact with anything. So what happened was, I realized that this seat which was there for Sarpanch, it was reserved for a women. I thought anyone can contest, but this time it was reserved for women. So everything happened. They elected a Sarpanch. So what happened after that was, whenever someone was talking, so उनका पहला इस बार तो सीट women की गिवन इसीलिए ऐसा हुआ. So basically what I want to say is कि इतना clearly visible था, they only gave so much importance or gave so much support because it was there just for women. मतलब women ही elect होने वाली थी. So that's why इतना support मिला था. अगर ऐसा नहीं होता, अगर there was a man and there was a woman also. So to be honest, they would have asked.
They wouldn't have asked. You saying that they wouldn't have asked a woman also to contest?
Yeah, because that was
so yes.
And the list, so I really feel this is really important.
So that also comes. There is a counter argument to a woman being there as a sarpanch, because when you travel you'll realize बड़ी common सी एक usage होती है, PP and SP, they say पंच पति and sarpanch पति. So whenever I give people give a counter argument to women's reservation, it's always the men who will be controlling the power they'll be the power behind the throne, because she's not qualified enough. राइट सो अभी भी अगर आप जाएं कहीं कहीं पे, तो आपको जब ये विमेन की जो सीट रिजर्व होती है, दे ऑलवेज से मैडम ये मिली है हमारे सरपंच हैं और ये एसपी हैं. व्हेन यू आस्क एसपी तो ये से सरपंच पति हैं. सो ही इज द टू डायरेक्ट ऑल योर क्वेश्चंस टू द एसपी एंड पीपी. Right? So the counter argument is always there. Now, to which I always say that a law, like say for example, dowry laws are being misused right now to put the entire families into jails. But does that mean we'll throw the baby with the bath water? Do you think that we should not have dowry laws at all? So at the same time, I have personally seen so many panchayats in Chhattisgarh, which I've watched very closely, where a woman has been elected and after the 5 years in power, she's come into her own. So probably अभी जो representative, अगर जिनको हम कोटा कैंडिडेट बोल सकते हैं women reservations में, तो अभी जो सामने आएंगे वो शायद ट्रेंड महिला ना हो जिनको हाथ पकड़ के सिखाना पड़े कि पार्लियामेंट क्वेश्चन कैसे फाइल करते हैं. बट गिव डेमोक्रेसी अ चांस and probably with the churning after the next 5 years, she would be adept at we all learn fast, we're all human beings who can adapt. तो 5 साल दीजिए इसको, I'm sure they'll be all trained representatives.
Actually, I had another question, but as that was asked, so I came from a rural area, and like last year, election happened for the Gram Panchayat. So before that, all male candidates were there, and when the women reservation came, 33% women reservation. So what they did was they made their wives stand in the election. So now those wives are like representatives. But what actually happens in the evening was that most of the decisions are taken by their husbands only. So I think reservation, even though the reservation is there, but most of the time women don't really speak.
तो वही मैंने इनका स्टेप सवाल आंसर किया। मैंने किताब में मैंने एंड जो किया है, मेरा जो एपिलॉग है उसमें मैं गई थी बारामती, वहाँ पे एक टेम्पल टाउन है, तो रात को मैं पहुँची थी। तो वहाँ पे मुझे आई मेट अ जेंटलमैन हु वाज देयर, हु वाज शोइंग मी अराउंड एंड ही सेड कि ये जो है ये यहाँ पे हमारी डिमांड है कि ट्रेन थोड़ा सा लंबे टाइम तक रुकनी चाहिए, 5 मिनट नहीं रुकती है, 10 मिनट रुकनी चाहिए, समथिंग। आइए घर आइए। तो मैं उनके घर गई, तो मुझे जो इम्प्रेशन मिला था कि वो सरपंच हैं। तो जब मैं गई तो देयर वाज अ लेडी हु केम हु सर्व्ड मी पानी। रात हो रही थी, उन्होंने पानी कहा। बहुत अच्छा घर था उनका, और बाकी सब कच्चे से घर थे और उनका मतलब आलीशान महल ही समझ लीजिए। तो उन्होंने कहा ये सरपंच हैं। वो पानी लेके आई थी मेरे लिए, उन्होंने कहा ये सरपंच हैं। तो मैं मानती हूँ, यही मैंने कहा, मैं मानती हूँ ऐसा होगा कि जो MP या MLA इलेक्ट होके आएंगे, द पावर सेंटर्स वुड लाई समवेयर एल्स, बट दैट डज नॉट मीन दैट अगेन इफ देयर इज समथिंग लाइक दे कांट बी ट्रेन्ड। आइडियली व्हाट शुड हैव हैपेंड वाज कि जो सरपंच इलेक्ट हुई थी वो हम उनको लेजिस्लेटिव प्रोसेस में उनको जगह देते और वो MLAs बनती और अभी तक ट्रेन होके, इतने साल हो गए, 20 साल से ऊपर हो गए, तो अभी तक ट्रेन होके वो MPs बन सकती थी, पर हमने शायद उनको इतनी पॉलिटिकल स्पेस दी ही नहीं, अपॉर्चुनिटीज़ दी ही नहीं। शायद एक और सवाल था, हाँ बताएं। अच्छा,
So how will we encourage other women from non-political background to come and
औरतें आना चाह रही हैं क्या पॉलिटिक्स में? यंग लोग आपकी तरह आना चाह रहे हैं क्या?
how will we encourage them?
वही मैं पूछ रही हूँ कि आजकल कौन, मतलब हम लोग जब 11th-12th की 12वीं परीक्षा दे रहे होते हैं तो क्या पॉलिटिक्स एक ऑप्शन होता है क्या? ये पॉलिटिक्स ज्वाइन करने के लिए क्या वो एक डिफरेंट वो हो गया? हाउ डू वी इनकरेज देम? वी इनकरेज देम बाय गिविंग देम मोर टिकट्स, बाय गिविंग देम इनफ स्पेस टू देखिए, जो वो नीचे स्टूडेंट पॉलिटिक्स से कर करके हम लोग ऊपर आते हैं, जो लोग ऊपर आते हैं वो एक जरिया ही होता है। स्टूडेंट पॉलिटिक्स से शुरू करना पड़ता है जिनको, तो दैट्स हाउ यू इन्वॉल्व। इफ यू involve more women and if you make your political processes vibrant enough to involve more women will come. That's how you encourage them. You open up space for them when you have these. मतलब बड़ा अच्छा एक्सपेरिमेंट, पेपर पे बहुत अच्छा एक्सपेरिमेंट था जब राहुल गांधी ने बोला था कि यंग लोगों को आना चाहिए। हम एक क्या लीडरशिप डेवलपमेंट मिशन टाइप का कुछ एक फैंसी सा नाम था और उन्हें दिया था। हम उसमें पहला जो इलेक्शन हुआ था ना, उसमें शायद बूटा सिंह के ही वो पोते आए थे ना, तो ऐसा ही होता है। So your democratic processes are also rigged like that. We need to straighten our processes. I think so.
Not only give a voice, but give a stage to women, and at your home, when you get married, when you have a family, give a voice to the women at home, and then you'll see the changes that happen in society. So I think we should wrap up on this note because we're already running late, and I'm so thankful. This was such an engaging session. I mean, not seen so much of audience interaction and questioning. Thank you so much for being here.
Thank you.